Alrighty guys, welcome back to a brand new video. This is gonna be a little bit of a different video. Today, I'm gonna be going through exactly how and why I got into photography. But I wanna keep this as raw as possible, and I'm gonna try and do this in just one take. I'm not sure whether I'll do it, and you'll know in the future later down in the video if I did or not, because there might be a cut or two. But anyway, I've got a handful of notes here, and today we're just gonna sit down, chop it up, and go through exactly how and why I got into photography. So, why did I get a camera in the first place? Well, let me take you back to about 2014 when I was about 15 years old and I was making Minecraft videos. Minecraft Let's Plays, Minecraft walkthroughs, whatever it was. If it was Minecraft related, I was making it. And I loved making these videos. And this is when I started really getting into the whole YouTube game. I'd been uploading stuff since I was about 11, and none of it was working, by the way. But yeah, I decided to start making Minecraft videos because I loved playing it, loved making them, and I consistently got bullied at school for it. Now, it's not a poor me video. Arguably, for the videos I was making, maybe it was fun to kind of, take the mick. But either way, I decided it would be a good idea to invest in a camera to get a face cam going. Now, at the time, my computer, every time I'd plug a webcam into it, it decided to just shut down. For whatever reason, I don't know, tried this with multiple webcams, so I couldn't do a face cam through a webcam, so I decided to get a Canon 600D. At this time, I had no interest in photography whatsoever. I was purely just doing it, so getting a camera so I could record my face while I was playing games, especially Minecraft, and be done with it. This 600D, it didn't have continuous autofocus through video, so if I moved around at all, it would just lose focus until I came back to the exact spot I started recording the video in. So anyway, I was maybe recording for about 2 years before I really started getting into photography, but that's why I got a camera in the first place. I was rocking the 600D with the 18-55 classic 3.5 to like f5.6, and then the 55 to 250 f4.5 to 6.3, or whatever the stock kit Canon lens is. And that was all I had. I was shooting all the video, of course, on the 18-55. Shooting that on the 55 to 250 might have been a little tight, but anyway, I digress. This is the camera that I started with, and this is where everything got rocking and rolling. So, why did I start taking photos? Well, like I mentioned, I was getting made fun of at school, and like I said, fair play. And yeah, I decided that it was probably time to stop making YouTube videos. Every time I would start a channel, it would grow to maybe 100, 200, 300 subscribers. Then someone would find out about it at school, and that was probably because I was telling friends about it, some people that I trusted, and then word would get out, and it was not nice. So I decided to put it away, put YouTube to the side, and then I was just left with a camera and 2 lenses. So I thought, hey, why not, instead of being in front of the camera, start being behind the camera? And that's when I started taking photos. I absolutely loved this. When school wrapped up, I was taking photos nearly every single night. I actually started out as a night photographer. We were taking I was taking long exposure shots with some good friends of mine, a guy called Josh and a guy called Corey. I'd go out with them all the time, shooting as much as we could, and that was it. We'd just drive around my hometown and go shoot long exposures. We'd set up the tripod and be sat in the same location for hours on end, just waiting for the right cars to come by and just shoot long exposure photos. And that was it. That's how I started getting my first taste of photography, and that's how I fell in love with it. From there, I started posting everything on Instagram, and things, let me tell you, things were slow in the beginning, and they were really, really slow. Once I started posting more and more on Instagram and got a little bit of traction, started following some people that were shooting in Sydney and people that were shooting in Australia in general, I started realizing that maybe night photography wasn't 100% my jam. I lived right by the beach when I grew where I grew up, so I was blessed to be able to live near the beach, and I saw a load of people shooting sunrises all the time. I lived on the East Coast, so the sun came up in the east, and this was kind of perfect. So all of a sudden, I decided to, pivot a little bit from my night photography speciality into sunrise photography. And this is where things took a big change. I'm just gonna quickly glance at my notes here. Okay, no, we're good. I don't wanna make any cuts in this video, so I'm gonna try and stay true to that. Anyway, once I started shooting sunrise photos, that's where everything started turning around. I started growing on Instagram, and this was actually a really huge kind of positive movement in my life, and here's why. When I was maybe between the ages of 17 to, I would say, 20, 21, really at the end of 20, I was partying quite a lot, and this wasn't good. I don't need to tell you why drinking alcohol, excessive amounts of alcohol, especially if you have any idea of the drinking culture in Australia, it is horrendous. And we're talking multiple times a week, 3-4 times a week, we would go out, party, and that was it. But all of a sudden I was getting up for sunrises and I couldn't party anymore. I couldn't be out until 5 a.m. because I needed to be at my location by 5 a.m. So this just wouldn't work. So I stopped partying and therefore I stopped drinking. And that's where things started really getting serious. All of a sudden, I wasn't partying and drinking, so I freed up a lot of time. I got all my energy back, and I was getting up at like 4, 5 in the morning, depending on the time of the year, to go out and shoot sunrises. It was all by myself for like the first 2 years. Now, at this point, I was getting up for nearly every single sunrise, and it was annoying the hell out of my family because my alarm would go off super early in the morning. I'd get up, get my bag ready, be out the door, and drive to my sunrise location. And I wasn't the most quiet person in the morning. I tried my best, but I put my hands up. I'm not the quietest person when it's about moving around in the house, especially in the dark. But anyway, this is where things really started getting good. I was posting all of my work on Instagram and finally starting to grow an audience. And it was up to me now whether I wanted to commit to this quote unquote new life of getting up early, chasing sunrise, shooting, posting, making content for the internet, or whether I would, somewhat follow in the footsteps of my friends at the time and continue partying and to continue drinking. And if you don't know by now, I definitely chose the path of photography, sunrise, waking up early, and not partying. Now, I just want to let you know here, just a quick one. You don't have to give up partying or drinking to make this work whatsoever, but I'm sort of the person that is all or nothing. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna hopefully do it properly, or I'm at least gonna do it enough to be able to start to do it properly. And I thought, why not just commit 100%? And that was probably the best decision that I made. Now, this is where Instagram started coming in because another kind of big milestone and stepping stone in my life wasn't a follow account, but was purely just the people I met through Instagram. So after I'd been shooting, I started building up a bit of an online following and I was making my way over to Vietnam. I booked tickets to Hanoi for about 7 days from Sydney and I had no plans. I just booked tickets and I can specifically remember coming out to the lounge room and telling my mum, I just booked tickets, I'm going to Vietnam. She's like, cool, what are you doing? I had no idea. I was like, I don't know. And then my mum being my mum, she decided to jump on the internet, find some cool stuff for me to do. And she found these insane waterfalls on the Chinese border. I'll put a photo or a video up on screen right now. And it was my mission. I was like, I'm gonna get there 100%. So I started emailing and DMing a load of Vietnamese tour operating companies. And the first one that I messaged or emailed, I can't remember off the top of my head, got back to me, accepted my collaboration offer. I was giving them 2 posts and a handful of photos in return for a return trip up there and back on motorbikes with a tour guide, just the guide and myself, that was it. And this was the first taste of 1, travel photography, and 2, wow, people actually need this. And this is where things turned around. I got back from that trip. I then saved as much money as I could. And about 6 months later, I flew to Bali for 3 weeks. Fortunately, since I was coming from Sydney, Bali's only a 5.5-hour flight away, which is still a decent amount of flying time, but it's not like I was coming from Europe or the States where, you're looking at 18, 19, 20 hours, depending on how long your layovers are. So I was blessed. Bali was like right next door. So I jump on a plane, head over to Bali, and once again, I've got nothing planned, and all I do is start DMing people. Not companies this time, I just wanted to meet more people. And that is exactly what I did. I was DMing so many people to just go out and shoot. Do you want to shoot this morning? Do you want to shoot that afternoon? Do you want to shoot this waterfall? Whatever it was, I was probably the most annoying person in Bali at the time, but this paid off like no tomorrow. I ended up meeting up with a handful of people, getting along with them really well, and just spending the rest of my trip with these guys. I actually went and lived with one of them for a year, about 3 years ago now, for the year of 2021. We lived together out here in Bali. And it was life-changing. All of a sudden, instead of being surrounded by people just from my hometown in absolutely perfectly fine, 9-to-5 jobs, I was being surrounded by people that were doing travel photography for a living. That wasn't even on my radar at this point. I had no idea that this was a possibility whatsoever. And I was surrounded for 3 weeks by people that were doing this full time. So if you could even imagine how much of a transformation in my mindset that was, that once again changed absolutely everything. And that was just all stemmed from me just turning up, messaging people, being a little bit vulnerable, and trying to find more people to connect with that were doing the thing that I wanted to do. And that trip changed my entire life. From there, I only had one goal. And that one goal was to be able to make money with my camera in any way, shape, or form from anywhere in the world. And that was it. I committed to it. Then it was kind of funny because that trip was in 2018. Fast forward until 2019, about April, I went all in, quit my job back home. I saved up as much money as I could. I think I was working maybe like 3 jobs at one stage. I saved up as much money as I could, quit them all, and then went over to Europe to try full-time travel. I did 6 to 7 weeks in Europe, flew over here to Bali, was here for a month, went over to Vietnam, went over to Thailand, came back to Bali, went back to Australia, did my first ever paid job in New Zealand, which was crazy. Back to Australia, over to Vietnam again. And even though I had my first paid job, it was a 14-day road trip. The deliverables were a 2-minute video and 100 photos. Okay, 100 edited photos for 1,000 New Zealand dollars, which is about 600 US dollars. So for 2 weeks work, a 2-minute video, and 100 not raw photos, edited photos. That's just insane to think about. For 600 US dollars. And it's safe to say if that was my only paid job in this kind of area, I made $0 and I actually went into the negative. And then of course the big sick rolls around, I go back to Australia, and that was the time I said to myself, if there is any time to make this work, and if I can make it work during this time, I can make it work at any time. And slowly but surely, I made it work. And you know what? I might make a video in the future going through exactly how I made everything work, why I did what I did, why it was the best time for me to just put my head down and, commit to myself. If I can make this work, I can make it work at any time. And that was pretty much it. But you know what? That's a story for another video. Anyway, that is exactly how and why I got into photography. I know that there would have been a few cuts in there. I've got to stop for a drink every now and then. And believe it or not, I don't know if you guys make videos or not, but when you talk to the camera for a consistent amount of time where you don't really stop, you actually burp quite a lot, which is a really interesting phenomena. And I guess phenomenon. Anyway, probably not something that you guys would, unless you make videos like this, because people just cut them out. So maybe you don't know. Anyway, a little bit of an insider thing. And it's not just me. It might just be a friend and I, but it's not just me. Maybe we're weird. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little different from what I usually post. And you know what, to be fair, I'm actually kind of liking this format, just being able to sit down, chop it up, and talk to you guys about some really interesting topics without needing to make it super over edited. And a lot of stuff's got to be going on. There's nothing to say that we can't just sit down, have a chat, and be real. There's just not. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this down in the comments. Let me know if you want me to tell you the video of how I got everything started during the big sick. I don't know whether we're allowed to say that on YouTube without getting like whatever, but for now, I'll leave it at that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it started in 2019, 2020, 2021, it started cooling off, and then 2022, surely you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, guys, for the 13th millionth time, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.